when it comes to stories, for AI, anything is possible. Humans tend to have a sort of filter in their heads. You now can do anything you want with AI. But to me, it's a tool. Because when you say to the art, create something original, the art might be new and different, but to what purpose and what's the reaction people are gonna get it?
Hi, welcome to Brand Matters. This is a podcast where we discuss how to create strong and meaningful brands. Today, I have a super interesting guest, a person who helped me a lot in my work, still continue to help me. Andreas Mielenhausen, creative lead for Google Creative Works. Andreas, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Big pleasure.
First question, everybody knows Google, but I'm not sure that everybody knows what Google Creative Works is. Few words, what Google Creative Works is.
In probably the shortest amount of words, we tell stories either created by brands or agencies with Google Tech. So I think that's the best way to summarize it, because we're not a creative agency. We're not just Google in terms of tech. We are in between. We're creative specialists. We're now platform specialists.
And just for all other listeners, Andreas is helping top Google clients to develop creative brand strategies on how to activate and maximize the power of Google platforms. So that's what Andreas been helping us at InDrive as well. Exactly. Andreas, I was preparing a little bit for our talk, and I was studying your LinkedIn profile, and it says, I loved it. I love the profile and how you said it. So it says that you almost became a singer, you acted in sitcom, you competed in unusual competitions. I'm sure there is more behind it. So what things you've done, maybe crazy things you've done, that helped you in your creative career?
Probably all of the above. In the creative field, creativity is just like a new way to combine two existing things. So the more things you experience, the more things you know, the more you can basically create. And our job is sales, right? We have to sell ideas, we have to sell brands, we have to sell our work, we have to, get paid. And the fact that you can be on stage, that you can compete, that you feel comfortable with pressure and stuff, I think those are all things that contribute to the creative work, to the work we do on a daily basis. If I had to pick one that I think helped me the most, it was probably not necessarily linked to this, but it was just learning languages. Mm-hmm. Because the fact that I learned Russian allowed me to get a sitcom in Russia. Actually, allowed me first to get the job at Google. Mm-hmm. Because they had, the local team in Russia and the central team in London. One wanted the foreigner, the other one wanted a local. I was kind of the only in-between candidate after months. So without Russian, I probably wouldn't have gotten the job. And the same with the sitcom. They had written this character, which was a foreigner living in Russia, spoke Russian, couldn't find anyone, found me. So I think the thing that helped me the most along the way was probably learning languages. And of course, before that, English. I was a really good student back when I was 12 when I started, I think, studying English. And it's the thing that allowed me to have an international career. So languages has by far been the most return on investment, but everything contributed to the road ahead.
What's the name of the sitcom?
Девчонки. So it's...
All right, we need to find that.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. You can watch it. It's at the time, especially, it was extremely famous. It was, I think, before we had this kind of widespread of series. It was I did 2 seasons, 2012 or 13 and 14 or 13 and 15. I don't remember which seasons I was, because we record and then it airs afterwards. But to this day, when I travel, when I go to Russia, people recognize, they take pictures and stuff.
Wow, it's awesome. I need to check it out. Definitely. I'll try to cut a scene and put it in our podcast.
Please do. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Coming to languages and countries, you've worked across different countries. I will name a few: Brazil, Germany, Ukraine, Russia, Italy. Now you are located and working in Dubai. How does creativity and creative work change across different culture? And partly you answered that one. How does that help you as well in your creative work, being worked and understanding these different countries, through the languages, through being the soil, through people, etc.?
To be perfectly honest, I think there are way more similarities than difference, which is probably what allowed me to have an international career in the first place. We're all humans. We all want to be liked. We want to be loved. We want to be accepted. We want to be recognized. The human motivations, they don't change. Of course, the language you expressed is the way you express those things, they change. But at the core, we are extremely similar people, or as people. And I found this like, like in Brazil, we are very influenced by American culture. And so like most of the movies we get are Hollywood movies. And I think had we not have this type of intercontinental or global understanding, we wouldn't be able to cry watching a movie or feel excited or feel fear. The motivations are extremely similar. There are, of course, things that you need to know in advance in terms of like if you're writing a story, even if the motivation is right, the context has to be right as well. So you need to understand and respect cultural norms. As a foreigner, you never know the language as well as a local. So there are expressions you don't know. There are like second meanings you don't know, superstitions, especially in Russia. Like there are lots of things that you need to be aware, but you will be aware with the team, right? So the creativity itself travels well. It's more on the execution and the details that, things get a little more local. But I didn't face across my career so far an issue where I would present an idea about being rewarded or loved and stuff. And people say, no, we don't like to be rewarded or loved here. It's more on the nuance than on the idea itself.
Coming to the next question, which actually bothers me because this is what gives me a lot of headache. Being an international brand, and you work with a lot of international global brands, there's two schools. One school says, look, let's do one single global strategy, one single global creative frame, and let's just, throw it all countries. Another school says, look, the strategy can be centralized. The product should be more or less the same, the product experience, but the way we communicate, the way we adopt the brand, the way we do the advertising should be super local. And the central creative frame doesn't work. What's your view on that? Central, global versus local?
My view is that usually when we try to have the discussion, we don't use the right examples. Meaning, most of the brands that try to have the centralized approach do not have a good creative concept or strategy. It's either boring or product focused and stuff. It's more of an economy of scale, like trying to not have to rebrief, reapprove, retest, refocus group, everything. And they try to have this big approach. But coming back to the previous question on the execution, I think localizing it makes all the sense, right? And I think as a good example, like you take Snickers, like you're not you when you're hungry. It's human. Like everyone gets cranky, everyone changes their behavior when they're hungry. It works everywhere. Like everyone gets hungry. There is no one person that doesn't get hungry. So I think it makes sense that once you found such a human, true, powerful insight or creative message, that you use it across the globe. Like you don't need to find another one. But of course, if you're executing this on a country that is okay with being more of a egocentric / individualist like the US versus a culture in Japan where it's more about the community and being part of something bigger, you will of course try to adapt what it means to be hungry or not yourself when you're hungry according to the culture. I mean, you work for a company that localizes work basically across the globe. You know that just changing the language already makes a difference. Making it relevant makes a bigger difference. Making it local makes it the more local you get, the better. But I don't think that it's necessarily that the idea does not work. It's that usually you have an idea that is sort of irrelevant. And then when you find something good that could be applied to anywhere, basically, it works. I have a good example. I was working on the Pepsi account at BBDO Moscow, and they were trying to develop this new concept because brand manager in China took an agency, created something relevant, and the brand exploded in China. And the concept was stay thirsty, right? It's a little like just do it. There's a lot of like inspiring human material behind Stay Thirsty. Like it's like it could be related to learning, it could be related to achieving more, it could be related to the drink itself. There's a lot of like in Stay Thirsty. And then the brand exploded in China. The guy was promoted, like, and then everyone was trying to chase him. But that's because at the time, the positioning that the Pepsi was using globally was not live for now, but it was something just as bland at the time. Of course, like you go global, no one is going to relate to it, but no one was relating to it in the US in the first place. So it's not an issue of do we execute well in the market? Do we have a better celebrity? Like, what's the issue? The issue is that usually those ideas that I pushed from global are not human enough or interesting enough to relate to different communities and different audiences. But when you have something that is strong, like Omo in Brazil, which is, I think, Ariel, or Tide somewhere else, which is like dirt is good. Like the fact that kids have to get dirty to learn, enjoy life, to play, it's true everywhere. And parents everywhere hate to wash their clothes, but parents everywhere want their kids to have a great childhood and play and go out. So if it's human enough, I don't see an issue. But I agree with you that when there's this school of economy of scale, like here's the positioning, here are the assets, here are the brand lines, don't astray. You can localize, it's still going to be irrelevant in most cases.
Cool. Loved it. So the most important is to find the universal human truth, either come from local insight or global insight, and then comes a strong strategy, and then it can be localized to sound very relevant to each market. Loved it.
100%.
Let's go to measurement and effectiveness, because I think this is a good bridge. If piece of creative work is successful, especially before we launch it. I mean, because after we launch it, it's obvious there's data, etc. But before we launch it, is it more like gut feeling? Is it more like pre-test? Is it more like quick test, digital test, etc.? What's your view on how to measure the creative work before we actually produce it?
I think my answer would be divided in three parts. I used to be, when I was in the creative agency, extremely against pre-testing. But there are two reasons for this. So this is the first part of my answer. It's things have changed. So in my time, a focus group was a group of people who were paid to go into a room and criticize either a storyboard or a animatic, whatever it was that the client could afford at the time, which meant that the work was not real. It was not placed on the media as it is, and it was not consumed the way it's consumed by a real customer. So all three things that could give you a sign of the actual quality of the work or the idea were missing. And therefore, every test was, I was paid X amount of money to criticize this work. And so you would have someone say, like, I don't like yellow. I don't like a dog. Those are individuals, and taste varies. That's why, when you're a creative director, you try to separate the idea from the execution. It's okay if it's not a dog, or if it's not a pit bull, it's a golden retriever. Like those things usually don't matter much because it's part of the execution and it can be changed. So people would get attached to details, and the conclusion was the ad doesn't work, or you have to get rid of the good part of the story, because that's where people got attached. That's the thing they got attached because that's the only thing you could remember in general. So that's the first thing. It was wrong. It was bad. So at that time, I think the best test, and that's the second part of my answer, is gut feeling. But I would go beyond gut feeling, because I think gut feeling has a bad rep. I think if you tell a story and people get excited and they laugh and they smile, it works, right? So it's almost like the what we were talking about the universal insight. It's really hard for you to tell a good joke and people would not laugh, right? So if you tell a story in a meeting room without execution, without the casting, without the post-production, and people are inspired, they smile, or they feel something, you're on the right track for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the third part of the answer is things have changed. So we can now run A/B tests on almost every platform. I speak of YouTube, of course, but you could run a campaign of unlisted versions of a story, or even a storyboard if you want. Get data, see, like, are people skipping? Are they watching? Is there any BLS effect? Like, you could test the ad in the real environment with the real audience. the way they consume it and see if it works or if it doesn't work. But also beyond this, what we have now with companies like System One, the testing itself has evolved. It's not that you put someone in the room and say, like, what did you think of this piece of animatic you saw? They measure eye tracking, pupil dilation, head movement, blood circulation. It's like there's a lot of things that go way beyond the verbal assumption of what do you think? Because, people say one thing, it's not what they feel or what they think. It's usually like what they think you might want to hear that might make them feel special or more intelligent. And System One is able to match the expected results based on the emotional reaction of people. So they have this 6-point scale. If on an emotional scale, the ad performs, I think, above 4.5 or 5, the ad's going to be a success. And there hasn't been a case where there was emotional response, but no, let's say, commercial response. If people react to it, it will work. And a good example is I don't know if you've seen the latest Coca-Cola ad that ran during Christmas.
Mhm.
Fully AI generated. So they took the old ad, redid it with AI. Everyone in the marketing community was criticizing what an absurd this is, and it's fake, and the wheels are spinning the other way around. That ad hit a home run on System One, and it performed extremely well for the consumer. The consumer is not thinking like, oh, what's the execution? How is this done? They're just looking at it and feeling something. And if they feel they like it, that's it. That's all you need. So I have changed my approach because testing has changed a lot. And now we have an opportunity to actually do proper testing, meaning with the real consumer, the way they consume it with semi-final assets. Like you could recreate an asset in AI, test it, and then if you want to shoot it with real actors, you can shoot it. But things have changed a lot. So I'm now a believer that you should test.
Awesome. So pre-test, A/B test, digital test, and System One. Thanks. I need to check them out. This is something new for me. I
They have
definitely will check it out.
revolutionized training testing for sure.
Amazing. You touched AI. AI and automation is now taking over everything, including creative works. I mean, there's a lot of generative AI, the static, the dynamic, the video. We've seen Coca-Cola. I've seen, I think it was Porsche. They've done a new commercial purely from AI.
It's a fake ad, but it's for Porsche.
It is fake, yeah. But I love the way how you really can see that the production is coming there. Will AI ever replace the role of creative director, creative strateger, or is there something fundamentally irreplaceable about human creativity?
Well, I think AI will replace a ton of jobs. That is for sure. Like if you are an editor, if you're a director, if you're a DOP, if you're a maybe designer, if you're a like, there are many, 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 many professions which I think will be affected by AI. But I don't think AI is here to replace human creativity. And the reason I say this is I was reading a book called Everybody Lies by a data scientist. He says that the data AI is trained on is usually conversion data and other types of data, meaning AI does not know what people feel when they watch something. And I think even if we start training people or AI to react to how people feel, I believe two things. One, when it comes to stories, for AI, anything is possible. Humans tend to have a sort of filter in their heads when you give them a task where everything is possible in the direction of a goal that you're going. And I think that's why I think the word creative director is you're giving a direction to the work, which I feel like, at least in the coming, let's say, years, it's hard to replace because AI is extremely great at finding patterns. And normally the work that stands out is the one that is out of the pattern, right? So I used to do this presentation like 1 or 2 years ago, because now AI has changed a lot. But I would go to a client, I would ask Gemini to write a script for an ad. The script is perfect. Right? You could say I have the opening scene, the dialogue, the closing scene, the slogan, URL. Like you have everything that a script has, but there is nothing interesting about it. And I would try to, poke it and say, like, people have to feel something. They have to feel like, and it always ends up using the elements of bad ads, which is rational elements and variety. So if we're talking about, let's say, a tourist destination, you would say, like, this destination is great. It has the beaches, it has hotels, it has the attractions, which people don't care about. Like they want to either see the stuff they're looking for, or they have to feel something. Like you can't do both, right? I mean, you can do both, but you have to know what they expect. So what happens is, in the end, every ad is going to look the same if you let the machine work. But if you say, like, write an original script for me for this specific industry, what it will do is look at everything that was ever done and do something different with a similar structure. But the problem is, like, just being different doesn't make it good, So in my opinion, at least in the foreseeable future, from what I can see, I believe that creatives will accelerate the pace of work. It will accelerate the pace of production, the time to market. Like those things are going to change fundamentally. I mean, they are already changing, but with the quality of the models getting higher, by the day, I think this will change dramatically. But for you to come up with an idea, I'll give you a silly example. I was watching, I love looking at old ads and campaigns because I believe that the lack of media tricks and media formats had to limited them in the sense that the work had to be good, not how you put it out in the world. And there was this campaign for a snack called Combos. Mm-hmm. And it's a campaign where you have this guy dressed as a woman. So being the mom of a teenager. So imagine like this guy playing video games and beating the kid, or doing really bad stuff, or drinking at home and stuff, and always eating combos together. And the creative idea is combos, what your mom would feed you if your mom was a man, right? It's something that, like, you cannot take your eyes out of while you're watching, because you're wondering, like, who is this fake mom? What the hell is going on? Why are they eating combos? And then by the time you realize what the idea is that you're like, of course, like a mom would never give me this, but a man would, like it's not healthy, but it's probably tasty. It's fun for like the everyday life. Finding that thing is hard. Coming up with that thing is hard. But I think the hardest thing is knowing that that is fun and it's going to work for the target audience. There is no training for that in terms of, like, when you see something and you know it's good, AI has to use data to know whether something is good or not. And it has to have parameters, like good based on what, right? So I feel like this role of looking for the unknown, looking for the material that is not anywhere to be found, creating a connection between two things that probably make no sense, like a man and a mom, right? It's two things that the machine would probably never consider doing. I mean, it could randomly, but that's why I'm saying, like, when you have everything is possible, it's hard to know what's the one thing that it's good, or the things that should point you in the direction you're going. So to me, in the moment, I think AI is, I was talking to some artists yesterday here in an artist program. I say, like, to me, AI at the moment is like a tool. It's like a brush. Like, you can be a new type of artist. Like, some people sculpt with the chisel, some people paint with the brush, some people draw with a pencil. You now can do anything you want with AI. But to me, it's a tool. Like, because when you say to the art, like, create something original, the art might be new and different, but to what purpose, and what's the reaction people are going to get it? The task you gave is a bit different. It's not what you want to express as an artist, what, your traumas, your internal world. It's just new. So I don't think that in the near future, I don't want to be a prophet, so I'm very careful with my timelines. I believe that humans will have this role of guiding the AI to get to this type of ideas. And I think the good thing about AI is things that were not possible before in terms of production now are possible. So if before, you had a budget of $10,000 and you wanted to shoot on the moon and have a rabbit, flying, that would not be possible. Now you write a prompt and you have it. So I think the level of creativity and ideas we're going to have is going to be very, very different from now on.
Sounds very inspirational, and I loved how you put the role of human creativity, that machine cannot yet interpret the emotions. And probably it's the question when the AI will start have empathy, if it's possible at all. And if yes, are we doomed or not? Let's come back to that question in 2 or 3 years from now. You mentioned the book,
Yes.
and thanks to Google, I Googled it. The book is Everybody Lies, Big Data, New Data, and What the Internet Can Tell Us About Who We Really Are. The author is Seth Stephens Davidovich. I hope I pronounced his
Yes.
last name. It's really
Yeah.
complicated.
Seth Stevens. Yeah.
Seth Stevens. Any other books that inspired you lately, or books that you recommend to people who want to explore deeper in the creative?
Too many. I am an avid reader. I read a lot. So because there are two directions here. Like one is things about the future, right? And it depends on how deep you want to go. Like I read Ballstrom's book, like Super Intelligent Paths and Dangers and Strategies to AI. It was a like mind-blowing book in terms of understanding the potential, the dangers, the evolution of AI. But at the same time, I read a more down-to-earth book that was just as powerful, which is by Kevin Kelly from Wired. It's called The Inevitables. And that is like an insane book about like trends, because he doesn't talk about specific technology, but trends like sharing, connecting, evolving, and he uses tech to show you how it's happening in the world. Unbelievable read as well, very easy to digest. But then if you're talking like creativity, then I would get a lot more concrete, with books like Hey Wiffles, Squeeze This by Sullivan. Unbelievable. I think anyone who is in the field needs to read this. There's a book I read nonstop. It's called The Copybook. It's like just work from the top copywriters from the 70s and 80s. Like it's work you read it, you're like, wow, how can words and concepts be so powerful? And then there are things like The Perfect Pitch, Truth, Advertising, and Lies. Truth, Lies, and
Truth
Advertising.
and Lies about Advertising. Yeah, yep, that one.
Squeezing the Orange. There's like really too many books about the topic. What I don't like and I avoid, I would probably do the opposite. Books I wouldn't recommend people to read are books that are either based on trends or theories that have not been proven. So there is a book that I think caused a ton of issues for marketers, was Love Brands, because people are like, oh, we have to create a love brand. We have to create a love brand, forgetting that love brand is a result of good work and in human insights. Like if people like and care about the brand and the work you're doing, you become a love brand. Like you have to make a good product, of course, but it's like the relationship you have with people. So like it's like a viral video. Like viral is the effect of good work. You cannot say like, let's make a viral video. You can say like, let's make a really good video that resonates with a lot of people and execute it really well so people watch it and share it. But you're not guaranteed to get there, right? There's the human and there's the audience, there's the consumer on the other side that might disagree with your taste, your choices, your director, anything. So it cannot be the objective. Yesterday I was listening to the podcast Diary of a CEO with Mr. Beast, and Mr. Beast saying like we miss the mark sometimes. Like the most famous, most successful, most analytical YouTuber misses the mark sometimes. So you cannot expect that everything you do is going to be great and well received and everyone's going to like it and share it. But if that's your goal, you're way more likely to do that than if you're aiming for mediocre work. So, books like, this, I think even like Tipping Point is like you read it, but you don't know how to apply it. There are books that you read it, you might like it, you might feel inspired, but they don't give you tools to either understand better what's happening during the moment when things are happening, or to have tools to actually change things, you know. And I think the ones I enjoy more are books that give you tools to be better or to understand the situation when it's unfolding. Then we had a tipping point, yeah, but we just didn't see it. Like, because like tipping point is a good example. Like, you don't know what the tipping point for anything is, and there's no calculation. Like, what is the number of views or shares that a video has to have to explode? No one knows. It could be 10, because these first 10 people are crucial to sending it to 10 to 10, and or it has to first reach 1 million for the algorithm to push it. Like, you never know what the tipping point is for many things. You only see it in hindsight, and in hindsight it's too late, you know. Like, so I prefer books that give you tools than knowledge or theory. Yes, I don't know, that's my choice basically.
Loved it. Thank you. And I'll try to compile the recommendations that you've done and put it somewhere. So it'll be
Yeah,
somewhere.
I
Yeah.
can send it to you.
That'll be great. That'll be great. Coming from theories and tools and love brands, let's talk about the things we're actually working right now together with you. It's about brand purpose. I mean, brands love talk about purpose. And you've seen a lot of cases and you showed us a lot of cases. Let's start with, provocative question. Let's be honest. Do consumers really care about brand purpose? Or is it just us, marketers that are talking about it to ourselves?
We have a feeling, because we cannot interview everyone in the world, that we overvalue the importance of purpose in some products and in some instances. I do believe that we as humans are people who want the best for ourselves, the best for others, the best for the world in general, but beliefs are very different. So I was giving a good example. I was reading an interview with Booking.com's director yesterday, and he was saying, like, even though we are trying, and most of the hospitality industry is trying to offer more sustainable travel, sustainable accommodation, for people, the number one concern is price. So they're not willing to pay more for sustainable housing, sustainable travel, because of, the rising costs of travel. So they would not stop traveling because it's not sustainable. They will travel to less sustainable, cheaper options, and they don't care, between quotations mark. But so people do care, but the thing is, you have to take into account the cost and the accessibility of purpose. So if, like, I think we were discussing in our work, if your purpose is embedded in the product and there is no extra cost, like in the case of InDrive, it's amazing. Like, why not help the community? Why not help your peers? Why not help someone get out of, debt? It's amazing, because you're getting yourself a benefit. Like, you're paying less for a fare, you're choosing a driver, you're getting from point A to point B. So in those cases, or when the company has a purpose that is, again, like, I was come back to Mr. Beast, Feastables is one of the only, if not the only, chocolate that is ethically sourced. So they don't use child labor. Every other brand uses child labor and doesn't care about it, right? So the fact that you're buying a brand that has a purpose, I'm still buying chocolate. I could have bought Nestle or it's a Mondelez, but I'm buying Feastables because I'm making a choice. It doesn't cost more. It doesn't taste different. It's the same product, but with a purpose. So I believe that as humans, we all value purpose. We are not ready for, and that's why I think in some cases we overvalue, is we're not ready to pay more for it, and we're not ready to pay for a story about purpose versus a product. So even companies which are extremely successful around purpose, like Dove, you saw they even ran a new Super Bowl ad with, the girl running at 3, those legs are, unstoppable. At 14, they're unbearable. Let's help, kids. They have purpose, but it's more a brand story than the product itself. Even though the product is accessible, available, etc., they just want to sell soap, right? The soap itself is not going to make the legs more bearable to a 14-year-old, but the brand has a role. So I think it's just important, just like we were talking before, it's not to put everything in the same bucket. Like, purpose is important for people in general. We all want to know why we're here in this world. We all want to, mean to others and stuff. But we cannot fool ourselves thinking that we're not selling a product, or that purpose is the only thing that's going to, move products off the shelf. It's not the case.
Loved it. And just a little bit dwell on what makes, and you partly answer that, but let's dive a little bit. What makes some products and brand actually hit the mark on purpose and actually deliver that both through the product, the business model, the story, etc., while other brands, we can probably name a few, actually completely miss it. So what is, the good activation and the mistakes that brands do in purpose?
Yeah, I mean, there are two, I think, directions. One is on the product itself. So let's think that there is no advertising in the world, that you make a choice based on the product itself. If the product is born out of purpose, if the product itself helps a cause, if the product itself is the means to solve an issue, the product itself is great and it has not missed the mark. The thing is, again, is just maybe the cost. So I'll give you a good example. I'm super anti single-use plastic. I do everything I can not to use. So even this is glass, not plastic. So I try to avoid plastic as much as I can. The moment I saw a brand called Wild, which is a deodorant brand fully made of paper and metal with rechargeable sticks, I bought it. And they don't even deliver here in Dubai. So I have to order in Europe or buy now in the pharmacies. But each refill costs €7. A P&G or Nivea or Unilever deodorant costs like $2.50. So I'm paying 3 times more for the same product. In that case, it's, again, I am ready and I'm fortunate enough to pay for that privilege. But I would never blame or be angry at anyone who buys the other one because it costs 75% less, 66% less, right? It's not fair on my side to demand an action on others, which is what happens, globally. First world countries blame the upcoming emerging countries that they are using too much plastic, that they don't have, eco practices around or sustainable practices. Of course not. They have to eat. They have to do a lot of basic stuff that the, advanced economies have solved. So to me, if you create a product or if your product was born out of purpose, you hit the mark already. But then there is the communication side, which is people care about purpose and they're in some cases ready to pay more for purpose, and purpose creates connections and emotions. They hit the mark when they're not linking the purpose to use the product and therefore you will be more purposeful, more successful. When they have a role, they play, and you align yourself or you don't align yourself with the brand. What they miss the mark is the product has no role, the company doesn't have an agenda, and we're just saying that, we're trying to help or giving money away, etc. That's when all the greenwashing happens, the Pepsi gender happens. It's like when brands think that just by using purpose, they will move products. That's, in my opinion, like probably the worst use of purpose that you can have.
Final question. We've been more than 40 minutes. That was so inspirational. Imagine you
Too
have
fast, man.
I know. I would spend another 2 hours, honestly.
Okay.
But I need to take care of listeners. I'm not sure if they would listen for us for an hour. Final
They
challenge. It's a creative challenge now. Let's warm it up. So
Okay.
you have unlimited budget. You have complete creative freedom to launch any product, any brand, or social cause campaign. Something that matters either to you or society. No rules, no limits, just pure creative insanity. What that would be.
I thought a bit about this many times in my life. And first of all, I don't like when you don't have limits. I don't like when you don't have budgets. I don't like because the thing is, like, when everything is possible, you don't do anything, right? You need to have a direction. You need to have a brief. You need to have an audience. You need to know where you're going. Otherwise, it doesn't make much sense. But if I was launching a cause with a limited budget, I would have two directions. One is against single-use plastic. To me, that's the number one evil in the world. Corporations, just like they don't care about using, child labor to produce coffee and chocolate, same thing applies to single-use plastic. You probably know the story, but recycling was forced on the consumer side with a very ingenious campaign done, I think, in 1970s, 1987, if I'm not mistaken, with an indigenous man from the US walking around in the US and seeing all these plastic bags flying around and saying, like, man, are destroying nature and so. So you have the responsibility to recycle trash. So the companies passed on to the consumer this task, or like they're producing the packaging, the bottles, the caps, the cans, and it's on us to clean it, separate, and recycle, not having the tools. They don't have to do anything. They just produce more and new, right? So if I could do something around stopping single-use plastic, that would be the number one thing I would do in my life. But then on the other hand, I believe exercise is one of the most important things in the world for people to have a healthier life at every level. I'm doing a course now called Learning to Learn, and the module I had yesterday was that exercise and sleep help you build new neurons. It's something I didn't know, but exercise helps you with your blood flow, your happiness and serotonin levels, with your cholesterol, with your muscle, with your osteoporosis, with your brain, with your mood. So, like, if I could launch something of a global scale, find the right incentives for people to exercise, even if it's just like a 30-minute walk every day, that would be like the number, maybe one same side, like one is for nature, one is for humans, but those are the two things I would love to solve.
Love it. And the final, the Learning to Learn course, where is it? On which platform?
On Coursera. It was a University of San Diego course that it's now available on Coursera. It's learning how to learn powerful mental tools to help you master tough subjects. It's based on a book called Mind for Maths, if I'm not mistaken. And then they made this 4-module course that is available on Coursera. I found it. I'm finding it. I finished just one module yesterday. I'm finding it very interesting.
Andreas, I learned so much from you, and I love to learn. Thank you so much for this 45 more minutes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your insightful information. That was a great pleasure for my brains. Thank you so much.
Likewise, man. It's amazing. I love your initiative. I love you as a person. And I didn't know the brand was called Brand Matters, but it's super. Yeah, it's
Thank
a
you.
great name, great brand. So it's been a pleasure. Hope, people get something out of it and they enjoy this. Absolutely.
We'll see that. We'll see that. Guys, if you liked our podcast, please put us some likes, some comments, because we need that. We need that because that's what makes this podcast live and makes other people find us. So please like, share, and recommend to your friends. Andreas, thank you so much one more time.
Thank you so much, Michelle.